to step down from his post while he's on trial for corruption charges. He has, however, rejected calls to resign and claimed the protests are the work of leftists and the media. Netanyahu is facing charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. And those are the headlines at this hour. For these and more stories, go to our website at telesurenglish.net.
Healthy news of TeleSUR. Today in our central theme, we will talk about Cuba, a Caribbean country blocked by the United States more than half a century ago. The country is searched for alternatives to ensure their health of majority and implement its universal health system became a reference by medical brigades traveling to the world to the countries that need it most. Remember our email quietucuerpo@telesur.net. Now let's do our usual informative tour this week. The journal The Lancet questions the use of hydrochloroquine to treat COVID-19. This drug used and generated to fight malaria is used in some countries as Brazil against coronavirus. The use of this treatment has scientific divided because some don't recommend their use in cases of COVID-19. WHO members called for the temporary disconnection of clinical trials with hydrochloroquine, which until now it is the most widely employed treatment to combat coronavirus.
To the Secretariat, to the Executive Group, and to the DSMC, a decision was made to stop the randomization with the hydroxychloroquine trial on the basis of two pieces of information. The first, the data that was published by the UK trial, and second, the data that was available to us from the Solidarity trial.
Faced with this scientific disagreement, the governments of Italy, Egypt, Tunisia, and El Salvador suspended the use of the molecule to COVID-19 suffered. In the other eastern countries such as Brazil, the United States, Algeria, Morocco, and Senegal held like the use of the molecule with still supplying in the population. The controversy caused by the use of this drug has led to the suspension of multiple clinical trials. In Mexico City, a team of medical brigades applied COVID-19 tests from house to house. Health personnel advanced through the slough using biosecurity implements to avoid being infected or infecting the population. The execution of these beans when people by telephone messages state their request to the local authorities. Subsequently, there is a filter at the breeders in which we continue channel the patient, determine their symptomatology with attempt to house. The samples of cyanosorprin and parinel are then taken to the appropriate laboratory for testing. After that, the medical team moved to the community door to door for testing. This process takes about 5 minutes in each of the people who manifest the symptom of the virus. Sometimes the welcome is not pleasant, as the neighbors are frightened. However, there are people who believe that it's better for the medical team to go to their homes so they can discard to the coronavirus. Visits are usually repaired, and in some cases, the medical brigades attain up to 5 or 6 times. In case of the positive, the follow-up is done by phone or video call and then assist the people with possible case of COVID-19. The World Health Organization is optimistic about studies for British research following the effect of medicines or medicine to reduce the mortality of the COVID-19 patients.
According to early findings shared with WHO, for patients on oxygen alone, the treatment was shown to reduce mortality by about 1/5. And for patients requiring a ventilator, mortality was reduced by about 1/3. However, dexamethasone was shown to not have a beneficial effect for those with milder disease who did not need respiratory support.
Revealed that the TeleSUR, known as the steroid of a drug that has shown significant result on good preparation in COVID-19 patients. The world is trying to get to normal, as in Arabia they reopened public places and shopping malls by continuous with restrictions throughout the territory to prevent contagion measures are maintained. According to the country's Minister of the Health, cases has a large increase and there is greater number of deaths by COVID-19. These cases are attributed to the indisciplined behavior of the population and the premature lifting of measures. Flexibility doesn't minimize the risk of the contagion. The minister called on his territory to maintain the necessary measures to prevent the virus. The mayor of Bogota, Claudia Lopez, declared orange alert for the increase in the number in serious patients, already occupying more than half of being available in the intensive care unit in hospital in the Colombia capital. Among the measures involved in this alert is its administration and regulation of public and private uses to restrict the use of the rooms. Many patients find themselves alone and isolated, waiting to be admitted to the intensive care units of some health center, particularly in hospitals where make it difficult to access. Meanwhile, patients decay and worsen by not having access to assisted respiratory and lack adequate treatment to combat COVID-19. Here is alone. He is isolated and they said, I am isolated in a room, but I think he is safer here. Staying off, be moved to a place where there may be more infected people and he no longer have the defense to bear it. The collapse of Bogota said health centers require at least 120 new funds to prevent the collapse of hospitals. We will help to Cuba, a Caribbean country that in the middle of the 20th century impressed the whole world with its great passion and its unbeatable quest for independence. The Global Health Organization continues to worry about the rapid growth of the COVID-19 epidemic. The global landscape continues to overslave the strengths of the political models that govern the government of each country.
The pandemic is still accelerating. It took more than 3 months for the first 1 million cases to be reported. The last 1 million cases were reported in just 8 days. But we know the pandemic is so much more than a health crisis. It's an economic crisis, a social crisis, and in many countries, a political crisis. Its effects will be felt for decades.
The epidemic has brought to light the weakness and institutional problems around the world. Europe faced a sudden outbreak for which it was not prepared. In North America, American political philosophy continues to promote social inequality and prioritize entrepreneurs' profit, bringing more problems than solutions. In other hands, there are China, Cuba, and a small island in the Caribbean which support doctors to the whole world to fight the epidemic.
Extraordinary Chinese-African solidarity against COVID-19 is our concrete step in the fulfilling the commitment we make and to do our part in international cooperation against COVID-19. I am convinced that humanity will finally defeat the virus and that the Chinese and African peoples are prepared to accept better days ahead. got there, we actually found a completely crowded hospital with patients even in the corridors of the guard courts, virtually all the patients with assisted breathing, a huge number of deceased, ambulance constantly passing, and the isolated streets.
In early June, warmly welcome to the brigade doctors who risked their life in the countries most affected by the coronavirus epidemic, thus expressing the Caribbean island willingness to be not only a Babylon, a live and example of solidarity for international community.
We knew how to do it, we did it well, and we saved lives. About health controls, vitality, physical protection has been much greater even than with Ebola, but I do not see it as a medical mission. It is our work and it is our concept as doctors, as Cubans, and as internationalists.
The spirit of COVID-19 has the scientific community under pressure and recently in the search for a cure for the virus. However, for this to be reality functional, it takes time to thoroughly investigate and verify its ineffectiveness of the possible drug. In this context of COVID-19, the Caribbean island implement the use of the green medicine as one of the preventive methods against the new coronavirus.
Europe at the moment, it multiplied by three practically the sale of natural products because they are much safer products, much more safe, much easier to acquire, and people use them with more tranquility and more security. There is the using of a product that has ginger and curcuma in Cuba. We have the argemu and the orange and has really given results to make people feel safer and much more strengthened to face any kind of health problem.
To ensure the health of the population requires the renewable and accordingly healthy lifestyles, new eating habits, and physical and mental activity. The Cuban National Health System applies all knowledge of natural tradition or alternative medicine to strengthen this approach. One of these initiatives is the Apothecary of the Grandma, a laboratory located in municipality Smooth, west of Havana, where they use medicinal plants as a basis for the treatment of respiratory, digestive, renal condition, among others.
I've been buying here a long time. I'm a customer here and I've been seeing quite few results because it's very effective on respiratory issues when it comes to expecting a cold. I really like to use the copal, which is very good. I recommend it for anyone in the family. It's very good.
Factory use products from the 16 biological farms of the medicinal plants to develop products that in the middle of the pandemic, even if they don't mean a cure for the COVID-19, they combat the respiratory condition of this disease.
The moment in a situation like this where there is a health problem that fundamentally attacks the respiratory system, if you use certain medicinal plants that have a proven scientific value, improves or strengthens the respiratory system, and any health problems that you may suffer, you will face it with much more quality and safety in that sense. Cannot say with this I cured the COVID or with this I cured the cancer or me with a natural product I cured a disease. Is that practically we can't cure anything. You have to do a complement of actions, a union of hygienic preventive actions, sanitary drugs to solve a health problem. Happens with high blood pressure, with cancer, with diabetes, happens with everything. With a product, just do not solve the problem. Where is the role of natural medicine today is in prevention. I was telling you, it is an extremely aggressive disease, an extremely unknown disease, so we have to know the weaknesses and opportunities that it gives us to attack. Today, natural and traditional medicine plays a fundamental role in prevention.
Since 1977, the Global Health Organization has recognized the value of the natural medicine that account for more than 20% of the global pharmaceutical market. In Cuba, the Office of the World Health Organization maintains collaboration projects that facilitate scientific research on this topic. The Cuban Minister of Health Alternative Medicine is a priority in his work, and by 2020 is achieving the development of the 25 million natural product and promoting research in this branch of medicine. To Venezuela, where the national government continues to open the door to Venezuelans who return as the country fled by the coronavirus, xenophobia, and discrimination.
Ambulance transports a family of Venezuelans with COVID-19. They are going back to their country from Ecuador in a flight ordered by the government for those who want to go back. They have all the security measures for them and for the health personnel. To go back because this pandemic hit us hard worldwide. Now we have no job nor a house. It got hard for us, so we decided to go back to our country. When you have a job, you can do anything, but without a job and without any relative to help us, it's really hard.
It's harder for us here. The pandemic is stronger than in Venezuela. There is dead people on the street and the pandemic is growing.
Whole family, including 3 children, is well received in this isolation center in La Guaira state, just an hour from Caracas. They face a complication because one of their members has recovered, so they have to stay isolated to avoid new contagion. I think it's better to be in my country with my family, with my children. I feel safer. There we have no one to help us, but here we have our family. Here anyone can help us, I'm sure about it. Venezuela faces the increase in its COVID-19 figures, the result of the so-called imported cases, people returning by land or across the country's air various borders and representing 80% of the total cases. At borders, health checks and compulsory quarantine are strengthened, and in isolation centers such as these, they receive medical observation and screening. Taking care of the patients who come, both connational or community, and are people who are more accessible to acquire the virus. They are cared for, compensated in case they have their pathology or the compensated basis. They are supported with the drug, they are followed up daily. Every morning I take a tour visiting the patients identified with a certain pathology. Calls to return to the country are repeated. If you are going through discrimination, xenophobia or lack of medical care, you can come back. However, you will have to comply the isolation and quarantine measures. This isolation is because of security measures. It is understood because we do not want to infect our families. That is an act of heroism because when they receive ourselves, knowing that we are carriers of that virus, it is hard. For the Venezuelans, because the brothers who are here, those who have remained here all the time, it's hard. I understand the concern of the brothers who are here, but they should understand us too. It is our necessity. Once recovered, they are helped to return to their home states and maintain COVID prevention measures. Leonel Retamal Muñoz, TeleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela.
To the end of the Healthy TeleSUR program, we say goodbye to today. Remember, you can contact us through our digital platform www.telesur.net and write to us on our email yetucuerpo@telesur.net. See you next week.
And finally, the door will open. I'll be able to pick up like I did before. I'll be able to see you without a pixel between us. And I'll talk without end all the afternoon. I'll tell you my plan during these 40 days. I'll tell you how much I hated not touching you. And after finishing the story, reviewing videos and messages, I want to tell you, honey, something even bigger. It took me so long to realize that we're losing time, moments, that the simple things are victories and other things are not necessary. I've ever seen the fear in between kings roar with their moguls, their determination in defending their fortunes, stacking patience in front of shelves. These screens that don't hide anything leave us naked. That is why, honey, today I tell you before everything fails tomorrow, after the quake, we don't be the same. The form, arguments, and the way of understanding, the manners, we will be creatures, not peoples. If we make of these deaths an awakening, we will live once again big dreams to love people. And no more isolation in these poor lives with our phones. That is my news, honey. Awakening.